You are about to witness history in the making.
Joel and true, everyone. It's Pop Culture Gamers Picard Special number 10 here, and my name's Hayden, and I'm here as always with Alan. Hello, Alan.
Hey, Hayden, Conestatu, how are you today? Number 10, huh?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Amidst all of this lockdown and all of that, how are you doing?
Good. I think I'm more used to lockdown than you are now. We're a few more weeks into it than you are, I think. So we've got a nice routine going, and so I don't think we have it as bad as you have over at the moment. You're definitely on the upward spiral.
Yeah, the numbers are really starting to rack up into COVID. But, yeah, very frightening. But let's not talk about such horrible things. Let's talk about what we're here for, which is the Picard episode number 10, the big finale.
Big season finale. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And we've got some definite views on this
one.
Yes,
we do.
And actually, I think the series in general as well. But we'll go into it in our normal formats. So this is Et in Arcadia Ego Part 2.
Yeah.
And we have the normal sort of recap. And this is only the second episode that hasn't started with a flashback. So the first one being the last episode as well. So we get all of the normal, about Picard sung, the Federation, not listening to Picard, the mind meld, the synths, the golem, Picard being captured and incarcerated, all of that sort of stuff. So we're back caught up to where we were at the end of the last episode. And we cut straight to the Borg cube, and Narek is sneaking in. And Elna and Seven are talking about the XBs while Narek sneaks around the back. And Narissa meets Narek on the ship, and they discuss the settlement and about Narek has killed one of them, to which Narissa says, well, that's an improvement rather than sleeping with them or something to those sort of effect, because he's more of a lover than a fighter, I think, is Narek. But it was interesting, was this, because when Narissa was attacked by all of the XBs, she beamed away, and I'd assumed, wrongly, she beamed away onto one of the Romulan ships.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too.
She'd actually beamed away to somewhere else in the Borg cube.
But you see, then there you go again. That was never made clear, or never really... they should have shown her quickly appear on another part of the ship, or appear alongside Commander O on her ship or something. She just disappeared.
Maybe they wanted to just have that as like a bit of a shocker for it, that she would suddenly appear, because we made the assumption that she beamed away onto one of the ships because it showed her beaming away after she had that like Walking Dead moment of all of the XBs over her. It showed you were beaming away underneath, and then it cut to a Romulan vessel flying off.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the assumption that we'd made, but you know what they say, if you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and me.
Yes, but when she appeared, were you shocked? Did that work?
Yeah, to be honest, when she appeared, I immediately realised what she'd done, and I thought, yeah, cool, that was good, because I wasn't expecting her to appear. So I was quite happy with that, but obviously I think you feel slightly differently, obviously.
Yeah, that's one section I have a few things to say about in a minute.
Okay. Well, probably be more than a minute the way that these talks have gone.
Yes.
So, we then cut over to Mavik's quarters, and Picard and Soji talking. He wants to be set free. Jurati watches her enter Picard's quarters from the outside as well. I forgot to mention that. And Soji feels that she has no choice in doing what she's doing now to save her people. Picard argues about don't let the Romulans change you into the monster that they fear.
Yeah.
We then cut over to the Borg cube, and Narek is getting equipment together. He has a plan. We find out that their family is actually a disgraced family, but they don't go into reasons why. And I think that might come out more in the next season, but we'll talk about that later. But
the way they're writing the series at the moment, we might find out nothing, because they just like putting little things in and then either continue the story or don't continue the story, or just, I don't know, go on, continue.
maybe so. Who knows? But Picard season 2 is going to be a year away at the earliest, isn't it? Really?
I'd say more now with this.
I don't think they can do it much more because of Sir Patrick Stewart's age, and I don't mean that nastily to him.
Oh no, I agree with you there, right? But I
going to be physically demanding for him.
I'd say if we get this at the end of 2021, and I mean the end of it next year, we'll be lucky.
Yeah,
they're only writing at the moment, like.
Yeah, I think 2021, end of 2021 is probably a realistic sort of time for him.
Yeah.
For the show. So anyway, Larissa's going to get the Borg cube weapons operational, and Narek leaves, and a couple of seconds later, Elna starts following him. So we then cut to engineering in La Serena, and Rios and Raffi are discussing the magical fixing device from the synths and the problems with the reactor. Raffi says, well, give it a try, just use your imagination, and then they have a joke on about he doesn't have an imagination, and she says, well, I do, I'll try it, and he's sort of like, no, you won't, you're not doing anything to my ship, sort of thing. But Rios is reluctant, as he just doesn't know how to use it. There's no on switch or anything. Anyway, he thinks about getting the warp core fixed, and the device starts fixing it. So like lightning comes out, and it starts sort of healing itself, very Borg-like, I thought.
Yeah.
In terms of it sort of like grows back, like it's transmitting some sort of nanite.
Yeah.
That's then building it all up or whatever.
Or like a handheld replicating, replicator.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, that could be another example. Like it's 3D printing it back together, as it were.
Yeah.
So Raffi and Rios joke, and then there's a clanging from outside. So we then cut back to the lab, and this is where we start. It picks up on the Golem thing from last time, and Sung and Agnes are talking about downloading the consciousness into a synth body. Sung is currently transferring Saga's memory, the android who was killed, because of her, what's happened, and he starts saying about the sacrifice that Agnes has been doing in relation to helping Sung pull everything together, as it were. Then she says, well, I'll monitor the data transfer, and then Sung leaves. And then Agnes then takes an eye out of Saga's body.
Yeah.
Which you don't actually see, but you hear the squelching sounds, which was quite amusing.
Which was funny because they actually showed some pretty rough scenes when we first kind of saw Seven when she was rescuing, what's his name? I'm gone blank now. And he was being tortured. Egypt, yeah. Remember how brutal that was looking?
Yeah, that was quite brutal.
But yet they pulled away when she was just pulling an eye out from an android or from a synth, Yeah. Again, no consistency.
Yeah, I suppose it's maybe because Saga was maybe more human built rather than technology, because what you actually saw was like technology being taken off Egypt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe that was a ratings thing or something or other like that. Who knows? Ratings things are weird, aren't they?
Yeah.
So we then cut to La Serena, and Narek is throwing rocks, and he wants to work with the crew to save the galaxy, and he's got some molecular dissolving devices that he wants to use to be able to attack this tower which is a radio mast that they're going to use to get in contact with these advanced AI. He wants to take that down. So we then cut to the mess, and Narek talks to Rios and Raffi, and they talk about the fact that Picard is now in a lockdown and he's been kidnapped. And Raffi tries to get hold of Picard and she can't raise him on the communicator. And then suddenly Elna appears out of nowhere and threatens Narek. Obviously, these two don't get on because, he's Quilat Milat and Narek is Tal Shiar or Zhat Vash, who are mortal enemies, as it were. Rios then says, they need to hear what he has to say. So then we cut outside into La Serena and a campfire, and then I think that this bit, this was like done very much like a ghost story sort of situation because of what they talk about. But I also think that this is a possible link to the Next Generation episodes Darmok, where Picard is stranded on a planet with an alien captain who communicates only with stories and draws comparisons of Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra with the Epic of Gilgamesh, and both, that story was told around a campfire as well. So I felt that maybe been done as a bit of a homage to that episode. But I don't know. Or it might have just been they wanted to make it look, talk a creepy story around a campfire to give it more effect.
Well, did you not find it a bit weird, though? When you first saw it come up on screen, they were sitting alongside the ship outside.
Yeah, they were sitting outside the ship. It did, it was sort of, why would they do that?
Yeah.
But, and because the ship was fixed at that point as
Yeah,
well.
it was, It did.
Maybe they just thought it'd be quite cool to just, do a barbecue.
Well, go to the holodeck and do one on the holodeck.
Well, maybe there's something about, doing food properly in a proper barbecue, which is better than syntha food.
But where were they getting the proper food from?
Well, maybe they caught it. Who knows?
No, it was one of those moments that didn't suit.
It was a moment that was deliberately placed into it to give it more of an effect, I think.
Yes, I agree with you there, yeah.
But I do think that it was maybe done as a bit of a homage to Dam as well.
You say that now makes more sense to me if I think about it. But when I first saw it the first time, it just looked out of place.
Yeah, and as soon as they started talking, I thought they're copying Darmok here.
Yeah.
That was just my first thought.
Yeah.
But anyway, Elder says he doesn't understand why they're trusting Narek, because he's a bad guy. And Raffi wants to know what the story is. So Narek makes a throwaway comment at this point about this is a tale that goes back well before their ancestors arrived at Vulcan. Now, this immediately had my ears pricking up because of me being, uber nerd, as it were. Because this is a massive change in direction for Star Trek. Because the Vulcans have always, we've always been, it's always been implied that the Vulcans originated on Vulcan, but that statement immediately makes it prove that the Vulcan homeworld, that they must have come from Romulus, rather than being, the Romulans came from Vulcan, which is what we'd always assumed. And that's kind of the way it would be delivered to us as well. Because obviously the Romulans and the Vulcans split at the time of Serac, when, he went down the path of logic and there was a group of Vulcans or Romulans who didn't agree with that. And that was when it was the split between the society.
Yeah. But
there have also been hints in other Trek shows that life kind of originated from different places, not necessarily Vulcans. But in Return to Tomorrow, or the episode The Chase as well, and also in Who Watches the Watchers. In the latter one, Who Watches the Watchers, that was an episode where separate Vulcans were found to have evolved on another planet.
Yeah. So
that could have maybe been another group who split off at the time of Serac and went a different way as well. But they were more like proto-Vulcans, so maybe that was a homeworld, who knows? Could be a lot of things. Anyway, they talk about Ganmadan, which is a story of two sisters, twin Kaluga, who were demons, basically, and they come at the end of time to open the way to unleash the Chakalugu. One demon is called Seb Natan, the foreteller, and she plays a drum made from the skin of children and strikes with a chain of skulls so hard and so long that her heart bursts from the effort.
Yeah.
And the other sister is Seb Chineb, who carries a horn from a great pale hell beast called the Ganmadan. And when she blows the horn, or blows a blast from the horn, she will unleash the Chakalugu, who have been waiting from the beginning of time. Then the sky will crack, and that is how they basically enter the universe. And there will be 1,000 days of pain. The streets will be slick with the entrails of half-devoured corpses, and worlds will burn. And then they will feast and nurse their brats on the blood of the Abu Uchu, or Uchji, as it were. They're picking out, the entrails from the teeth with bones, basically. So it's a charming little story.
So, pretty much could be telling what's happening in the current world at the moment. If you take it literally.
Yeah,
or abstractly.
Yeah, abstractly, I suppose you could.
1,000 days of pain sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah.
Like I wake up now in the morning and ask what day is. The first thing I do is what day is today, because I don't know what day I have.
Well, I mean, I'm watching The Walking Dead again just as a survival guide.
Yeah, I'm after watching so many movies like Outbreak and all those ones. I'm after watching all them again. The Happening and
Andromeda Strain.
Yeah, actually I haven't watched that. I must put that on the list to watch.
Yeah.
Good man. Anyway, back to this.
So anyway, Raffi asks, if he believes it's possible. He says no, it's history.
Yeah.
So he believes that it's happened. Now, one of the things I noticed with that description is obviously it's abstract, but it's not exactly like the description that is given from the admonition either.
No, it's not even close. No, it wasn't really.
No. So how, there seems to be a discontinuity in terms of this bit seems to be wrote by somebody who didn't have anything to do with the design of the admonition.
Yeah.
In terms of the storytelling, which was a bit bad. But anyway, we then cut to the fleet, and then Commodore O says that their great work is nearly at an end.
Yeah.
So she's a general now, evidently.
Yeah.
So we now cut to...
Who doesn't have much to say or do.
No, not very much.
No.
So we then cut to, a couple of places. It's both La Serena and also the Synthville sort of place as well, because it keeps flicking between the two. The sort of like tell the plan as a show it being executed. So the Rex says his plan is to sneak into the synth compound. Then, cut to the action of that being completed. They take the wreck as a prisoner. They have to stop and surrender the weapons. They talk about the fact that the molecular solvents need to be in a non-metal container. So Rios puts it in a couple of footballs, which he takes with him. Because, you take footballs around an alien planet when you go, don't you? Cut to Maddox's quarters. Agnes rescues Picard. She thinks that she's got a bit of a gift for being a secret agent. Well, I don't think so, because I spotted her as a secret agent straight off.
Stevie Wonder would have spotted that.
Yeah, come on, you didn't believe it when I said that.
No, I said that it's obvious she's working some way with or something's going on,
Not from the first episode, that very early on you didn't. It took me a couple of weeks to persuade you, but then you came round to it. When I was saying that, how could she had a disruptor?
She was a secret agent. I just think she had something put into her head, and that's...
Yeah.
So,
I said that she was working for Commodore O, but I wasn't necessarily meaning that she was doing it of her own volition.
And I still don't think she was working for O. I think she was, how do I word it? She was showing something that is a possible future, and then she went on her own. She made her own decisions, or it affected her mind to go and because she did inject herself to get rid of the tracking device and everything.
She did.
So I don't think she was actually working for O. I think O tricked her, or not tricked her. Like, how will I say it?
I think that the way that they actually did it, the identified this sort of in the round rather than directly.
Yeah.
That what O did was part of the mind meld to make her do it, to compel her to do it.
Yeah.
So in that case, she was working for O, but under a duress.
Duress, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's not a secret agent.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
But she would never have made a secret agent because I would have spotted her straight away with it. How come you had to disrupt her? That was my point right from the start. Yeah. Anyway, so we then cut to the lab. The golem is ready, and Sung sees at that moment that Sutra has actually killed Saga and helped Narek.
Yeah.
So we then cut to the compound, and Rios and Raffi are wondering how are they going to get to the tower because they've been let in. They've got no weapons. They've just got the footballs with them, basically. And at that point, Sung comes to the help and says, when they said, how can we get to the tower? He says, well, that'll be a problem, sort of thing, but I can help you. We then cut to La Serena, and Picard and Agnes arrive. Agnes gives Picard an update on the Romulans, just, 7 minutes out. Amazingly, she knows how to use scanners and everything on the ship. Picard and Agnes discuss the synths, and Picard feels that they are children, and all that they've been shown is fear, and fear is an incompetent teacher. So Picard has been watching Rios, and he sits in the captain's chair and takes off, and to the Next Generation music playing in the background, with Agnes saying, "Make it so," which is obviously one of Picard's saying that's been said in so many episodes.
I like that moment. I think she's kind of grown a lot more on me, Agnes. As it's gone on.
She's kind of grown on me, a bit like fungus.
Yeah. Well, she's done a better job than she who shall not be named.
I would argue differently, but there you go. Anyway, we cut to the beacon, and Soji is making a beacon, and Sutra is talking to the synths. Yeah. Sun confronts Sutra and deactivates her for killing Saga, and then at that point, Rios jumps in, as does Narek, and they spring their plan, basically.
Yeah.
Picard is trying to keep the synths... trying to keep the ship, rather, not the synths, flying, and he gets quite ratty with Agnes when she says, "It's now about the time that you should be really sharing your plan," and he said, "I am trying to fly a starship for the first time in many, many years and not destroy it," which I thought was quite amusing because she is an annoying character. So we then cut over to the wreck is overpowered and begs Soji to not carry on doing what she's doing. Rios lets loose a molecular bomb and throws it, but Soji captures it before it hits the tower and throws it away. We then cut over to Narissa, who is about to fire on La Serena from the Borg cube because she's got the weapons firing, when she is captured by Seven, and then they start to fight.
Yeah.
Which is, like the scene that we wanted to, if there was any two women going to fight, it's got to be them two, really, hasn't it?
Yeah. Hold on, can I just stop here about this fight, yeah?
Well, we haven't got to the fight yet, because it's only that, there's a bit before then, isn't there?
Oh, there is, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there is actually, yeah.
Yeah, so we then cut to space, and the Romulans arrive. General O orders a sterilisation of the planet. Now, with them saying sterilisation, this reminded me of the robot Nomad from the original series, The Changeling, where basically it was that droid's mission to sterilise anything that did not meet its measure of perfection. It was originally a probe that was sent from Earth that collided with an alien probe, and then it fixed itself, but it fixed itself into one thing rather than two things, and created something new, which obviously changed its programming and it become, mixed up. Yeah. But my thought was, could Nomad have actually been the first Earth probe to encounter the advanced AI back in the original series era?
That's a cool one.
Yeah. Just a thought. Probably isn't at all, but I just thought that would actually be quite a cool little thing that they could have done. Sent a probe out to see how artificial life is getting on, And it hits one of our probes. I always think that the episode The Changeling, that the motion picture were borrowed very, very heavily from that
very
story.
heavily from it, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. There's that nomad, even in the Star Trek thing, it had a kind of a look about, it looked like when the robots were lost in space or something, like a skinny version of it, if I remember. The nomad,
it looked like a couple of shoeboxes with like a cord on it, didn't it? And it didn't glide very well on that piece of string it was being moved about with. Even though you couldn't see the wires, you could tell it was being glided around on string. But we then cut back to space, and there's the Orchids coming up from the planet, and then there starts to be a space battle, which is the only battle we actually see, really, which is a bit of a shame. So then we cut to the fight with Seven and Narissa fighting, and she refers to Seven as Queen Annika.
Yeah,
obviously Seven being assimilated, to Seven when she was 6 years old, and Queen Annika. Because when she was assimilated, she was about that age, and her real name is obviously Annika, and we know all of this from the Next Generation's Next Generation, the Voyager episode Raven.
Yeah.
So Seven kicks Narissa's ass, basically, literally, for basically killing Hugh.
Yeah. This fight was like bland and disappointing for me.
Yeah.
It was a big build up. We got tricked. Well, we didn't get tricked. We thought she had beamed off the Borg ship onto the Romulan ships before they took off, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then she appeared, and I say, oh, right, she's appeared. So they were setting up for a big moment. I think what they tried to do here was a Star Wars moment where they had 3 battles going on in 3 different parts of. You ever watched the end of any of the Star? Especially, I suppose they did it in the Star Wars movies.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, they kind of had like a fight between 2 individuals. They had the space battle, and then they had another group trying to do something else. This felt very like this, but it just didn't. It was poor. The fight between Seven and Narissa was just. It was. I don't think Narissa is dead either. To be honest with you.
Oh no, she's coming back in season 2. That's one of my theories for the next season.
Yeah. I just felt, it was a build up for so many episodes, and it just wasn't a great way of finishing it off.
I think, at the risk of revealing what we felt about it before we get to the end, this was a perfect example of they didn't leave enough time.
No, like what I thought, I agree with you. See, this is one of those rare part 2s of a TV show, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it actually felt they could have split this episode into 2 parts again. I felt.
Yeah.
They, the ideas and plot points could have worked better, but it just seemed like they rushed it. They kind of rushed us for the first 30 minutes. How long was it? 50 minutes long? Was it an hour long episode?
It was 50 minutes.
Yeah. So I think the last 20 minutes the last 15 to 18 minutes was like another episode again where they were dealing with the Picard stuff. And nothing felt developed in the episode. I just felt they could have split this in. They could have added one more episode, and they could have finished off this storyline, and then spent the episode number 11. They used to do that in Game of Thrones, remember, in the first couple of seasons. Episode 9 was always the big kind of finale. Remember, there was always something battle happen, something huge happen. And in episode 10, they always set up for the next season. They brought in a few new characters. They moved the story on a year, and it was great doing. But this one, they could have made it 3 episodes. Instead, part 1, part 2, part 3. For me, and I just felt there was a lot lost because of it. It hurt the show. It hurt the episode.
I think that happened to more than one episode. I think that this was actually a show that should have been 15 episodes long, and the big bits like the fight between Seven and Narissa should have had more. Narissa's going to win, Seven's going to win, Narissa's going to win. And that should have been drawn out for 15, 20 minutes on one episode, but
Yeah,
instead it was over in like a minute.
Like they wasted so much of Seven's potential.
Yeah.
With just quick minute here and a minute there, and they tried to cram as much into those 2-3 minutes she's on screen. Yes, she's the core bar queen, and no, she's not. Do you know?
Yeah. There was a. But we can talk about what we think about it later on.
I've gone off again. Sorry.
Yeah, because we're going into our sort of like roundup. So anyway, she's killed Marissa for Hugh. So we then cut over to La Serena, and Agnes is talking to Picard about a plan. She asks if he has some sort of Picard maneuver, at which point she then realises, oh wait, that's a thing. Because let's face it, a secret military strategy, of course, a professor of robotics is going to know about that from the Daystrom Institute.
But is this the only maneuver they know in the whole series? They used this in how many episodes have they used it now?
Well, to be honest, I don't think it's actually been. They used the Rec used a variant of it.
Yeah, and then
but its original reference is the Next Generation reference battle,
Stargate,
where a Ferengi presents Picard with the Stargazer, and the ship that was a ship that he used in the Picard maneuver against the Ferengi. Where it killed, the result of that battle ended up killing the Ferengi's son, and the Ferengi was out for revenge against Picard. Anyway, Agnes knows about the maneuver, and Picard says it would be useless against so many ships as it would confuse it. And this is what got me: radar system. Yeah, really. So they're in the 24th century and are using a 20th century technology in space. Really?
They had to simplify it down for we all understand.
Yeah, I think we could have managed with sensors.
I think sensors would as well, yeah. I laughed at that as well, because I heard it the first time and I quickly went back 10 seconds and I went, radar system?
But they said it twice.
Yeah.
Said it twice. Anyway, Agnes says, if only they had some kind of wacky fundamental field replicator with a neuroatomic interface. And at that point, she then grabs the repair device and shows her face lots of times.
Yeah, talk about putting something into a plot, into a storyline. Yeah. Just to have it there for that one moment.
Yes. Yeah, to recreate that moment.
Yeah.
So, Soji, we cut down to Soji on the planet, and Picard communicates with her, and she's asking, what are you doing, Picard? He says that there's something he wants to give her and her people to change her mind, his life, and then he cuts off the communication. So we're now at the point where the Orchids in space are destroyed and the Romulans are about to attack when they do the Jurati maneuver, basically. It works, and they all engage the La Serena copies that have all come in, all with their own unique warp signatures, all of that sort of thing.
Perfect.
So during that fight, La Serena gets hit, it gets spins out of control, but Picard manages to save the ship. Soji has now built the tower, and a beam of light shoots out and opens up a wormhole, very much like, Independence Day sort of thing, that a beam of light coming out of the ship downwards, but this was upwards instead of very much like a lot of other,
like Ghostbusters and
Ghostbusters, Tron, all of those.
The usual standard fare. A light goes up and it opens a portal. They did this in Avengers,
Yes. Yeah, it was a very sort of like 1990s trope sort of thing, wasn't it, really? A lot of movies did that. So that then opens up the wormhole to this reality where the advanced AI are. Yeah. General O orders the fleet to target the settlement because now there's no more La Serenas, and all of the Federation ships warp in. Just in the nick of time, as you would expect that they would do.
I've got two things here now, right?
The
wormhole opens. Did you not think that the tentacles that were coming through, or whatever they were, looked like the Synth Alliance? Actually, Joe, I suppose it's the Synth Alliance. They looked like the familiar to tentacles in the Future Control AI probe from Discovery crew faced. Remember Discovery crew faced in the light and shadows. It looked like those tentacles, didn't it?
It did. It did, yes.
Yeah. And the other thing was the Starfleet moment when all the ships came in. Now, I know that the shipbuilding infrastructure was kind of dealt a crippling blow when they attacked the Utopia Plantive. Is that how you say it? Planitia, sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
But did Riker showed up with the whole bunch of the exact same ships? It looks really weird.
Oh no, there were some different. There was some slightly.
I paused that every single one of them looked the exact same. They just had different markings.
I paused. Some of them were actually slightly different shape. They had very slightly different sort of sections.
I thought he was using the Picard maneuver himself and was trying to bluff.
Oh, that would have to be the Jurati maneuver, wouldn't it? Because it was multiple ones.
Yeah. So there were two things I noticed with that.
Yeah, they were exceptionally similar designs.
Yes.
That is true.
But that's probably down to budget as well. You know?
I think it is, because I think they've obviously spent a lot of the budget on, previously on other episodes, because some of the episodes were really good.
Yeah.
In terms of their production values, I think that this is getting towards the end of the season and they're having to make do with what they can. Maybe misbudgeted on one or two bits or had budgets taken away. I don't know. Could be any of those sort of things. But so we then get
did look like Control.
They did, and I still think that Control's going to come into it maybe in season 2.
Yeah, I have a different hope now for season 2. I'll talk later about it.
Actually, as a thought, could them opening up that wormhole have actually let what becomes Control into our universe somehow?
Maybe.
That could have been the
origin. Much.
Yeah. So, anyway, we then cut to acting Captain Will Riker of the USS Zhang He, and he informs Zor that the Federation has designated planet Gulian 4 of the VAT system as under the protection of Starfleet in accordance with the Treaty of Algeron. So, a couple of things here. Zhang he was an admiral diplomat who helped extend the maritime and commercial influence of China throughout the regions bordering the Indian Ocean. So a bit of history for you there.
Yeah.
And the Treaty of Algeron was a peace treaty that was signed between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire in 2311 following the events of the Tormed incident. This was about 160 years after the First Romulan-Human War, and what it did was it established a neutral zone and prohibited the Federation from creating cloaking technology, and all of that was covered in the episodes The Next Generation of the Pegasus and Enterprise, These Are the Voyages. So, a bit of history lesson, because don't forget, those two related to each other, because These Are the Voyages was the last episode of Enterprise, and that was where Riker was looking at the events of the original Enterprise on the holodeck. And it was at the time of the episode The Pegasus, because he was trying to work out how he should behave, because he had the loyalty to his old captain and loyalty to Picard.
Yeah.
So O says that her claim on the planet takes priority, and then he placed Picard's request for help, of the planet, from the Federation and for the planet. Riker says he's on the fastest, most powerful ship Starfleet has ever put into service, and he has a fleet of them and their phasers, aiming in on their warp cores.
Yeah.
And nothing would make him happier than to kick her treacherous ass.
Yeah.
Which was actually quite like that line.
Riker, I thought Riker was one of the shining lights in this episode.
Yeah.
He just looked, the way he kind of sat at the chair like he always sits on, kind of leaning to the side. And he looked big and strong, and the suit and the hair. I thought that, I'd love to see more of that kind of stuff.
Well, who knows? We might see a new show of that if enough people start to request. But it did remind me quite a lot as well of the last episode of The Next Generation, All Things, because Picard sort of comes to the rescue. Not Picard, Riker comes to the rescue at that point as well.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah, very similar. So we then cut to La Serena. Picard's condition is worsening. Agnes treats him, and, he basically, Picard has to say, it says he wants to speak with Soji. He asks for some medication, some polysyneprine, which I can't remember if that's been on or not. She resists, but he says, well, it's only going to hasten the inevitable because he's going to die anyway. So Soji talks to Picard and he tries to talk her down about powering the beacon. Picard says, show them that you're not the destroyer. She doesn't believe that the Federation are on their side, and he says, if we were on, the Romulan side, we'd be attacking you by now.
Yeah.
Which, obviously quite a good point, I think, really. And, he says that they won't open fire, if they weren't on their side. So they're there to save each other. So at that point, the wormhole erupts and tentacles start coming out, and Soji destroys the beacon, which closes the wormhole.
Yeah.
The Romulans then stand down, and Riker and O talk, and basically she's sort of like... I just think that she gave up really easily.
Yeah.
Too easily. It's sort of like, oh, well, they've closed the door to that wormhole, so there's no threat anymore. Bye.
Yeah, boom, gone.
Yeah, and it was gone. And to me, that just didn't feel right at all.
I agree with you. Just because Riker said they're now under protection of the Federation, wasn't it something under some law? And then she just thought about it for a second. Yeah, I thought of it for a second and gone.
Yeah. So Riker says, we'll escort you back to your space. And she says that's no need to trouble yourself. And he says, it's not a trouble at all.
Yeah, he was very good.
Yeah. So Riker then talks to Picard. He says that he heard his request for help and he has to be reinstated. He says, Picard says, thank you for having his back. Riker says he learnt from the best. And then he says, see you around, my old friend sort of thing. And then definitely leaves, probably chasing after Commodore Rowe. And then Picard condition hastens and he collapses. We then cut down to the planet. Soji sees that he's fallen, asks what's wrong. Soji beams him down to the planet. Picard basically says his goodbye to Elnor, doesn't really say it to anybody else. And he turns to Raffi and says that she was quite right. And she says, about what, Jean-Luc? And at that point, he dies.
He should have said, I was quite right. You're a bitch.
Yeah, we know you don't like her.
No, I'm mad about her.
Okay. I'm more mad about what happens later, but forget about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I have something to say about that as well.
We'll get to that. So later on, we are now, and Seven and Rios are having a drink together. She's heard that Picard's dead. Rios says he would never do it again. She says she would do the same thing again either. Seven says she would never kill someone because it feels wrong for them to be alive. And Rios says he'd never let another, old hard-ass starship captain into his heart and then let them watch them die. Seven says, could you have stopped it? He goes, well, no, not really. And, sort of like, yeah, see your point kind of thing. And she says, well, I trumped you because I could have stopped myself.
Yeah.
Cut up to the cliff and Elnor comes up to Raffi. He starts weeping uncontrollably. Raffi gives him a hug.
That was out of place as well.
Well, yeah.
It didn't look right. It looked poorly done. The acting wasn't great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that he would have gone towards Seven rather than
Yeah,
two.
I thought so too.
Yeah, but I suppose because we have an undefined amount of time that they were actually on La Sirena before they actually got anywhere, which it seemed to indicate that was a couple of months in travel.
But it didn't feel, like I said to you in previous episodes.
It doesn't feel for us, but they're not going to show you, Star Trek, the next, the Picard, the uneventful episode.
But I'm just saying their relationships doesn't feel earned, or it just feels like they just met each other. That's why it doesn't feel, when you watch it happening, it doesn't feel comfortable or right, or a good chemistry, if you know what I mean. Yes,
I know exactly what you mean, but we'll talk about that shortly. So we then come to a quantum simulation, or as I'm going to call it, a construct now. So Picard wakes up in a room with ornaments and everything is painted grey, except the only thing that's not grey, other than him, is the fire.
Yeah.
Which is like a nice warm sort of colour. Picard says, oh, damn, another dream. And Data then comes in and says, "No, Captain, it's a massively complex quantum simulation."
I won't lie, no, I thought Q was going to turn up here.
Yeah.
When he was first sitting in the chair, I was like, oh, yes, it's Q. And no, Data.
No. So he says, however, all things considered, it wouldn't be out of place for me to appear in a dream to you. Picard says he dreamt of him all the time, and Picard asks if he's dead. Data says, yes, you are dead, and asks if he remembers. Picard says he does remember, and it was like a part of him slipped away. Data says he doesn't remember his death, as he'd been rebuilt from a copy that was in B4 before he died. So this is what they said all the way along anyway. Yeah. Picard says Data can't remember it, and he can't forget Data's death. Data says that apparently I saved you, Captain, and Picard says he was furious with Data because before he realised what was going on, Data had applied his plan and saved him, without any buy or leave. Excuse me. Picard says it was the most Data thing he'd ever done, and that he was sorry it was Data and not him who had died. Data asks if he regretted Picard sacrificing his life for Soji and her people, to which Picard says no. Data says, well, why would you think that I would regret sacrificing my life for you? Data then explains about the construct that was built by Maddox and Sung based on the engrams that were in B4. They agree that Sung is a bit of an acquired taste as an individual and Data's brother, as he refers to him. Picard says that he always regretted not saying to Data that, he loved him, which, again, even after everything, it feels out of place, I thought. Because, you don't turn around to somebody you work with and say, oh, by the way, I love you. It doesn't... I know what they were trying to get at. It was a love of a friendship. But, Anyway, Data says that forms a small but statistically significant part of his programming. Data says that before Picard leaves, he wants a favour, and then just at that point, Picard's surprised, that Data explains that Sung and Jurati were able to save his consciousness, and then a bright light appears behind Picard. He says, does he have to go now? And Data says yes. And then before he's about to go out, that is when Picard turns around and says, you asked for a favour. And Data says for his program to be deactivated. Picard then says, do you want him to die? And he says, well, not really, but he wants to experience knowing that his life will end, because mortality gives meaning to human life. Things like love and friendship are special because they can't endure forever, and a butterfly isn't a butterfly if it lives forever as well. Yeah. So this isn't the first time we've heard Data say anything like this either, because Data had shows about him sort of like taking some sort of solace in having a finite existence because of the episode Time's Arrow, when he's talking to Geordi LaForge and discussing the finding of his own head in a cave that had been locked in there for hundreds of years, if you remember that episode. Yeah. And that was also where we find out where Picard and Guinan first meet as well.
That's right.
Who is obviously going to be in season 2.
Season 2, yeah.
So Picard agrees, and then they say goodbye, and then he walks through the light. Cut to the lab, Picard wakes up and he inhales. Soji, Agnes and Sung are looking overhead at him, and Picard asks if he's real, which he says, yes, you are, sort of thing. So we cut to what I can only describe as like a sort of like kitchen dining room kind of area in a compound, and Picard is now asking about his new body, and this is where we get the lineup for the next show. So Picard's new body has no powers, no superpowers. Sung knew that after 94 years in the same body, he wouldn't want to adjust to something new. His brain abnormality has been corrected, so obviously he's not going to get that. Well, of course not, because he's in a machine now, so that syndrome's not going to affect him. Yeah. But everything else is basically new. And what they've done is they've built in, because he then says, oh my God, you've not made me immortal. And he says, no, don't worry, we listened. And what they've done is they've run some sort of algorithm to make his new Gollum body live as long as he would have done had he have not got the natural death from the natural causes that he would have died from.
Yeah.
Or that he has died from. It's basically what they said. So if you didn't have that and you'd have lived a bit longer, and we've made your body last for that. So then he said,
another year.
What's that? Another year? Another 10 years? Another 20 years?
95.
And they don't say. Yeah, they don't say.
Come on.
So Picard says that his gain is Sung's loss, and then they say about Picard says he's got a promise to keep.
Yeah.
So we then sort of like cut to the construct, and Data is listening to Blue Skies. This is obviously a call back to Picard episode 1, where it was sung by Bing Crosby, who is, by the way, the grandfather of Denise Crosby, who played Natasha Yar. And also Star Trek Nemesis as well, which it was sung in there as well. But this version is actually sung by Isa Briones, who plays Soji.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So Picard then gives his eulogy for Data as they're deactivating the device that the construct operates from. Now, interestingly enough, the eulogy is from The Tempest, and it's a speech made by Prospero, who Data once played in a production of the play The Tempest in the episode TNG Emergence, where the Enterprise created its own offspring.
Yeah.
If you remember that one.
Yeah.
So Data lies down on a sofa and he's wearing a robe. And I thought it was quite similar to the robes that he wore in All Good Things and also Ship on a Bottle as well. Because he was wearing sort of like smoking robes, smoking jacket sort of robes there as well, or like dressing gown sort of thing. And as it's been deactivated, Data's face grows old very quickly, which I thought was actually quite a well done effect.
Yes.
And then a replica of Picard appears next to him to sort of like give him solace in his last moments.
Yeah. I thought, sorry. Go on.
Go on. No, go on.
I just thought this kind of nostalgic moment, was done really nice, really right. His kind of final moments to Blue Skies, that he sang kind of to Troy and Riker's wedding. It was a lovely touch, really. And then everything about Daisy's appearance in the episode kind of gave touched back to all his best episodes and really gave him a lovely send-off, I thought. It was a really good way for him to, because from what he said from interviews, he won't be appearing in Star Trek again. He says he's too old to play. Yeah. But again, that could be just him. We could still see him again as something else,
He could still be Dr. Sung.
Yeah, he did say specifically in interviews it's the last time he played Data.
Yes.
So
not the last time he'll appear in it.
No.
So, anyway, Data dies and then everything turns to smoke.
Yeah.
And then it turns into stars.
Yeah.
And then we cut to La Serena, and we've got Rios and Jurati who are kissing. I know... I still saw that coming a mile off. I know that you didn't, but...
Yeah, when you're finished this segment now, I'm going to say something that the writer said a couple of days ago. The guy who writes the show.
Okay. Seven and Rafi are holding hands. Again, this was another one of those moments, the WTF sort of moments, because there had been no real contact between the two. It was a very forced, how come they're suddenly attracted to each other when this wasn't hinted at all? There was nothing.
Right. I'll butt in here if that's okay.
Go on, Ev.
Right. Remember the episode back with, how'd you pronounce her name? Brizel?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I said that they were a couple, and you were kind of going, no, it didn't. The writer, the co-series creator and writer, Michael Gambon, has come out and said that her and Bijel had a relationship, and that's been confirmed.
Okay.
In a recent Variety interview. And he talked a lot about it in that. And that the reason then that they had Raffi and Seven hold hands in together is they're trying to firstly confirm that 7 of 9 is... I suppose lesbian's the word you use, isn't it? Or bisexual, maybe.
She'd have to be bisexual because she had a relationship with Chakotay.
So they're confirming that she's bisexual. That's why they wrote it in. And also to start the idea, they just got him to hold hands briefly like that to start the idea of launching a relationship, testing the waters to see how fandoms react, like us, I suppose, or like, other Star Trek pilots. And he implies that the characters' relationship, then if the feedback is good, it's going to grow in season 2, and that's what he said in the thing. So I was right about the relationship between Seven and Michelle, which you didn't. So that's a tick for me.
Yeah, it is a tick. It is a tick for you, but that wasn't shown on the show.
Yeah, but nothing was shown in the show about relationships, Hayden. There wasn't.
No, if you look back at some of the very early episodes with Rios and Jurati, you can see it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There was a playful between the two of them. I agree with you.
Yeah,
but it wasn't good chemistry play. It wasn't.
No, I'm not saying it was good chemistry. I'm saying that they put that in, but they didn't put anything in on those two characters.
They put a lot of those relationships in there. Like the relationship between Picard, actually for me, the relationship between Picard and Eleanor at the start. Remember that episode?
Mm-hmm.
That relationship I thought was a really good start. We saw him as young. The explanation was given why there's a relationship between them, and even as an older, he kind of had to come to realization to come to his feelings to go and help Picard, right?
Yes.
That felt earned. But they did no more with that during the whole series after that, except one or two throwaway lines. But basically, they were never together.
I think that they almost took away from that relationship rather than,
And then he was supposed to have this amazing relationship with Seven, an amazing relationship with Raffi, that we never actually saw him apart from one or two lines that they had together. I think this was the biggest flaw of. I know we'll talk about it afterwards. That's just how I felt about that moment, that kind of section.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, we'll cut. Well, just cutting back to where we were. I don't know whether or not you noticed between Raffi and Seven, but they were obviously playing a game of Calto.
Yeah, the game that she played beat on Voyager, was it?
Yeah, so Calto is a Vulcan game, and it's one of patience as much as it is of logic.
Yeah.
And Harry Kim referred to it as Vulcan chess, to which Tuvok said, Calto is to chess, as chess is to tic-tac-toe, or as we call it over here, noughts and crosses.
Noughts and crosses.
And those were in episodes Alter Ego, Darkling, the Omega Directive, and Riddles. But in one of the episodes as well, what happens is Seven moves one piece and gets Calto in one move for Harry Kim in order to, get and beats Tuvok straight off. And she says it was just simple spatial dynamics.
Yeah.
As you do. So Picard says, right, it's time. And then the whole crew starts to take the place. Picard talks to Soji about leaving everything behind. She feels she's more cut out for wandering, to which Picard says, me too. Rios says, ready, Admiral. Everyone's sort of like looking at him. The Next Generation music starts to come up. Picard says, engage, and off they go.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the episode.
And season 1.
Interestingly enough, this is just a note about the synths. But not all of the synths were actually created by Maddox and Sung. Some of the synths created synths themselves.
Yeah.
And this was, again, something from the showrunner as well, who was talking in another interview, where the synths who were created by Sung and Maddox were named after flowers, and the ones who were linked to Data, who were linked from, like, the Children of Data, were more to do with stories, hence Arcana, Saga, and Codex.
Yeah.
So, just a little interesting point I thought I'd throw in.
Well, you got one last point in to finish off the season. Excellent.
saved it as my crescendo, obviously.
Yeah. So done. 10 weeks. Season 1.
10 weeks. And what's your reactions to it then?
I've had a bit of time to think about it, right?
Yeah.
Firstly, I have a question, and it might have been answered, about Daj and Soji, right? What was their basis for the secret amnesia mission in the first place? Do you feel at this point like actually it makes any sense? What was the purpose of it? What was the plan? What like that? I found like there was like so many things in this season. There was no real sense to it.
No, I'm quite sure that was actually explained, and I think it was explained, if I remember rightly, that Maddox had left with Daj and Soji.
Yes, I agree with you there. But why were they put on Earth as a secret mission?
Right, they were put on because Maddox thought that there was something going on between the Federation and the Romulans, and that's why they were split up into two different directions.
Yeah, but why? Like, why does that bother him?
Because of the culling of all synths, the ban.
Yeah, but if he hadn't taken them out and put them into the secret mission, the Romulans wouldn't have tried to trick them to find out where the
Romulans would have found them.
Yeah, so the mission, there was no reason for him to do it in the first place. He actually caused the problem.
Yes, I completely agree. He did cause the problem.
So see what I'm saying? If you go back before the problem was caused, what was his idea first in taking Soji and Daj and putting him out there? Because there was no problem before that. He had no reason.
It was a one-liner in, I think, part 1 of this two-parter that explained that was what his mission was.
Yeah, but it wasn't a mission. There was no mission for him to go on.
No, it was a self-appointed mission. He wanted to find out more about the ban and what was happening about synths and all of that sort of stuff. They didn't cover it properly.
No,
they didn't cover it properly, and I think that the motivations of it were very poor.
Yes,
but
that was supposed to be the main jumping off point. That was supposed to be the main jumping off point for the whole series, though. If you know what I mean. But it wasn't. For me, it didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, what I think in terms of causality, shall we say?
Yes.
I think what had happened was Beautiful Flower, who we still don't know what Beautiful Flower looks like, I noticed.
Yes.
And Jana.
Yeah.
Was it Jana? I think it was Jana.
Yes.
That when they went onto the ship that Rios was on and their captain killed them, that was the first tip-off that there was actually more synthetics out there, which is where the Jacques Vache then started to, work on their plan. And because of them never going back, that was what motivated Maddox to find out what had happened.
Yeah.
And to go back out there. As a result of that. But I think it was very mixed because the timings didn't really work out that well either. So I think that it needed a bit more thinking about, did that part of the story.
Yes.
What Maddox had done was the net effect of that was bringing the whole situation to a conclusion, because he then put two synths out there which were discovered that led them back to the homeworld.
Yeah. It just as I was thinking back, kind of like trying to finalize a few ideas for the whole season, that was just one. The base plot didn't really make. It was kind of just an idea they came up with, the writers, to start off Picard on his journey,
Yeah.
To get, like basically the whole series is really about saying goodbye to Data, which I thought first was about saving Data. In a way, it was, I suppose. Now that I think about it, he wanted to peace at last, And
personally, I don't think that Data needed saving. I think that I just feel like the Data thing was there to give Brent Spiner a part in the show.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I love Brent Spiner. I love Data as a character, but he wasn't needed. Brent Spiner would have been needed but the Data thing, they could have just said a new version of the droids has been created by Sung's son.
But if they'd kind of gone in the direction that I think they eventually got there towards the end of this episode, right? if they kind of started off that basically it's about Picard waiting to die on the vineyard with his brain thing he's got going on, right? Kind of mulling over his failure about the rescue of the Romulan people and Starfleet's honor. That was kind of the first few episodes, right? Now now we've gotten there. He's got 20 years of life, lease of life. What we're guessing, I'm saying 20 years anyway. Lease of life. He's kind of surrounded by young people, a new crew. People in two-finger double caps that he loves, right? Because he said it a couple of times. Now, there's a whole big universe kind of out there to explore, and let's kind of see where he goes with these characters. I think if they had done that story more clearer from the start to the end, it had been a more cohesive story. Yes, you could have thrown in the Mass Effect story with the synths, with maybe control or whatever tentacles are coming through, and Daj and. If Maddox had, I just felt that was basically what we got to in the end. Do you not think so? That it was mainly about saving Picard, and giving him a future, right?
Yes,
and
and to be honest, it didn't even need to take the story there because the whole thing abnormality part of his brain was more linked to the Q future.
Yes.
They could have just ignored it.
Yeah, it didn't follow a timeline, sure. Remember, we said that a couple of episodes ago as well. I just felt I liked where they got in the end, if you know what I mean. That Picard now he's got a whole new crew, a whole new ship, and he's got new adventures ahead. He's back in space where he belongs, where he wanted always to be, not on the vineyard ready to die.
Yeah, I mean, one theory that we talked about was the whole theory of, is this Gollum that was there, could they be going to use it as a way of bringing in another actor?
That's what I thought was going to happen, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. And, given Sir Patrick Stewart's age and his, as far as we know, relative fitness, I don't want to see somebody else be Picard.
No.
But I think for the longevity of the show,
yes,
if they'd have said that Picard's consciousness was transferred into there, but somehow they saved his body so that there was a copy of him, they could have then had a young actor come in and play Picard.
But I still think they have
next to him.
I still think they have that opportunity in future seasons if it continues. If Picard gets too old, or if it gets too old to bring in another character. Like, as the body degrades, they can transfer. There's an opportunity, like a Doctor Who, basically, where he kind of regens or she regens or whatever the hell it is now.
Well, they've completely redone Doctor Who anyway.
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
50-odd years worth of history.
Canon completely. There's a podcast to talk for us to do.
Oh yeah, we've got to do that one. Because I want to get into that so badly.
Oh, I would too.
And I'm not even a big Doctor Who fan.
Well, I'm a pretty big fan now, and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
They wrecked it. Anyway, that's a different show.
Anyway,
look, you see where I'm coming from. I think, the final episode had some solid ideas, right? But it also had a kind of few negative, embarrassing ones. I thought the one with Raffi and Eleanor on the thing was... Well, it didn't feel right. I actually was embarrassed watching it, the way he was crying into her shoulder. This man's supposed to be a warrior,
But they've also established him as being very childlike.
Yeah, but yeah.
I didn't have so much of a problem with that because he's been brought up as a warrior and able to fight, but he's also been very sheltered as well.
Yeah.
And they have made him very, for want of a better term, simple, like a child. With a very childlike view. But I think it's the relationship that he has with Raffi didn't feel as earned.
Yeah. See, I think Eleanor is probably the biggest victim. He's the biggest disappointment in the whole series, right? Because he was introduced kind of as this badass, new merc kind of character, right? Who wanted to prove himself to his father figure, we'll call Picard, but he was never really allowed to develop his personality or kind of contribute anything meaningful to the story. He spent the latter half of the season or the second half of the season kind of parked or backed up into different corners, kind of waiting to be useful, and then he'd have a 60-second conversation with Seven about missing her if she died. And that was the most interesting thing he kind of did since he was introduced into the episode. I felt he was the biggest waste of a good character.
Yeah.
Right. No, don't get me wrong. Overall, I really liked what Picard was trying to do this season, right? Season 1. Yes, it was shaky at times, but I'm not done at all with this Jean-Luc Picard TV show. I loved it. I suppose the last 2 episodes I've been a bit more negative on it than I have in the whole season. I felt, like you said, it needed 15 episodes. I think they waste too much time in the first 5 or 6 episodes building up nostalgia and characters, and then they rushed. Do you know what?
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think that they spent exactly the right amount of time on that. What they didn't do was have enough episodes at the end of that to do what they needed to do for the rest. Because I think if they'd have done that development, if they'd have made most of one of the episodes about Queen 7, when she took over the Borg cube, that would have been fantastic.
Like a whole episode of her struggling of trying to give up the power she now has, where she just clicked off in seconds. There was no real. It was like it was nothing to her to let it all go again,
Yeah, if they'd have done a whole episode of Elna and Hugh trying to avoid the Jacques Vache, rather than how it happened, really pull that longer, have some really fantastic fight scenes. More the final space battle, have it bigger, have it more bold. Have the Federation of Romulans trading blows.
Yeah. Look, for me, they've built the characters now in the first season, right? So now the writers, we know they have 2 more seasons guaranteed. Because they've guaranteed, which is fantastic. It's great to have that. They've started writing season 2 already. Kevin Smith was talking about it on his podcast recently because one of his friends is writing the new series. And he's dropped hints as well about Crusher, which I know you're not happy about. But anyway, they've got a chance now for these characters to kind of like fix the pacing a little bit, for season 2. And kind of like totally kind of like, don't get me wrong, the first season Generation wasn't great, remember? It took time for it to get going.
The second season of The Next Generation wasn't great.
I enjoyed
the third season was. No, I did. I thought that the second season was almost as bad as the second season.
I mean, it wasn't the best, but I thought it definitely was. They were heading the right direction,
There was some good ideas, and there was 1 or 2 good episodes. But you had like Dr. Catherine Pulaski after Gates McFadden had been fired from the show.
Yeah.
All of that sort of stuff, and there was some, and the last episode, Shades of Grey. Oh my God, that was just an amalgamation of several episodes from the previous 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And Riker being infected and having an hallucination. It was pathetic. It was the worst episode of The Next Generation, bar none, was that episode. But season 3 was where it started to pick up. And then when you got to the best of both worlds, that was where there was a switch on Star Trek. And it stayed really high for most of all of the rest of the seasons, apart from 1 or 2 episodes in season 7, where I think they were losing ideas.
Yeah, but my fear now is that in season 2, they kind of, and it worked in Discovery, but in season 2 of Discovery, they kind of build a plot around another legacy character. Like, we know Pike in Discovery season 2, he's technically a legacy character because he was in the pilot of the first Star Trek, and there's a good bit of canon there with him. That's my fear, is that they kind of go on, they build this now around another kind of legacy character. And I think that season 1 had some really good, interesting topics, and they opened up some interesting ideas. And I kind of like them to see go down, kind of go into more about the artificial life, maybe go down that direction now that he is one, and see what happens. But I don't know.
Well, my theory is about season 2 is that he's going to be, as he said, an advocate to speak for the synths on their behalf, because he's now a synth. So he's been human, he's now a synth, he understands.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably where season 2's going to go. I think Narissa's going to come back. she's not dead.
But
or I really hope she's not dead.
I
Because
agree with you there.
she was such a beautifully, perfectly played, pure evil,
Yes.
sort of like pantomime villain.
Yeah, I prefer her more than O. I thought she was a better character than O.
Yeah, she was, but she was given more time than O was.
Yes.
O was a bit stiff, I thought. But then again, she was also supposed to be half Vulcan, so maybe that was why. But yeah, I love the character of Nerissa because she was pantomimishly evil.
Yeah.
But she had a purpose. I think that they built her purpose up in that show. And the relationship that she had with her brother, Narek. Now, here's a question. What the hell happened to Narek?
I don't know. I was going to say that to you. The end of the season, right? They didn't set up anything for next season, technically. You know, there's always something after the credits or something like a shadow comes out of a darkness and gives you a hint of what's going to happen next.
That's because I think when they finished it, I don't think that they actually knew they were going to get season 2. And I think what they wanted to do is give it a round off to give it closure, so it could be a thing on itself or it could be the start of something new. That's my feeling. And I'm just wondering, because I don't know whether or not you noticed, but Rios said, we're now Admiral. So has Picard been reinstated as an Admiral?
That's what I heard as well. Yeah, but again, that goes down to the writers. I think that was the biggest kind of flaw. The overall in this season, the writers were a little bit afraid to take chances, and it's very evident at the end of the show where they didn't really set up season 2. They just kind of played it safe, and I think with a bit of courage, they could have done something different, you know. And look, I loved it, the whole season. I loved it, and I'll probably rewatch it all again. Throw it on there and have it in the background and watch it. Really, I've watched each episode 3 times. We've done podcasts about it. Like, we've put hours into it. I really loved it across the board. I just feel that they need to be a bit more braver in the second season, you know. And I know one of the writers that's on season 2. He's the writer who's done Treadstone. He's done some fantastic shows. And he's already talking about ideas and things that he wants to move the show forward different directions. So, and he's a massive Star Trek fanboy as well, which is good. So, overall for me, a solid 8 out of 10. Loved it.
Yeah,
the ending,
Yeah, I would completely agree. I think it's an 8, maybe an 8.5 out of 10 for me. At a push, it wasn't perfect.
No,
there was a lot of things that they could have done better in it. I think that they took the easy way out, exactly as you said. I would not disagree with that at all. I actually think in some of our discussions, we've actually come up with some better possible plot lines.
Definitely.
Quite ironically. Because I think we've had some really... I think we've been both, when we've talked offline or on the show, I think we've been really, oh my God, imagine if they'd done this.
Yeah.
Really, and some of it's come true, some of it hasn't come true.
Like they left the Borg ship on the planet, right? No, I know it's going to be probably stripped and, used by the synths on the planet and stuff, and they'll help the Borg reassemble or to become XPs and stuff, but there was no closure there. We got no information what's happening there either. Same as what happened to Narek, No, he'd probably go into the ship looking for Nerys, will he? His sister?
Well,
season 2?
The last he was seen, he was being held down by the synths.
Yeah.
And, he was being held for murdering one of the sisters. Now, as it turns out, he didn't actually murder her at all.
He didn't. No, he didn't.
No. So it's going to be interesting to see if he comes back. Personally, I hope he does.
Yeah, I liked him.
I kind of liked him because...
I did too.
Yeah, and because I think he was conflicted in terms of his feelings about things. And
also, the relationship between him and Soji is probably one of the best relationships on the show because they had so much time together and it actually felt... They had good chemistry. It felt good, the conflict he was feeling about it and what he knew, and her then, Undivine, she thought she was human.
It wouldn't surprise me if that relationship's not revisited in season 2.
That's what I'm saying. They had everybody else on the ship. They had Picard and Eleanor together. They had, oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this, Raffi and Seven kind of together, testing the waters. They had Jurati and Rios. And also he confirmed that she also had an affair. Remember she made the phone call to the Federation officer that helped her get Picard onto the Borg ship.
Oh, she'd had a relationship with her as well, actually.
Yeah, they confirmed that as well, that they were a partner or a couple as well during her. So, you have to go and read that Variety. I'll send you a link to it.
And I know that Star Trek has always been progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But there is, I think nowadays, I think it's in terms of TV programs.
There's no need for it anymore.
There isn't.
It's life. It's part of all of us. We're all kind of take it for granted. Like and rightly so. And it's not even that. It's we're kind of going, well, where the hell did that come from? Like there was no moment of them together or no like what the hell,
Yeah, and I know that you said about Seven and the woman from the earlier episode, but there was no sort of real indication in that. But obviously, the sense was tingling.
Yeah, I thought there was. I thought there was more there than there was between Jurati and Rios in that few moments.
But the way it was portrayed, I felt it was more like it was somebody that she thought had her back, like a friend, rather than a lover sort of thing. So, I didn't feel that there was that chemistry in between those two characters at all. Yeah. Other than, it's like we worked together, we were fighting for this, and then you portrayed us to do this sort of thing. And that was why, I just didn't feel that.
Yeah.
In that sort of relationship. But, I mean, in terms of the theories that we've had,
yes,
so many have come true.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Dave, one of our listeners, the other night, and he was saying about, is that a bad thing? Because, you've guessed a lot of it. And I'm sort of like, yes, in some ways it is a bad thing, but also I think if they'd have gone completely out of left field with it, then it wouldn't have felt right. And I think that the difference is both of us are quite big Star Trek fans. And I think that we sort of know the ways that the writers work and the Bible that they work to.
Yeah.
So I think for us, it's easier to predict how things are going to go in terms of the show, whereas I think somebody who's more casual might have been maybe more impressed by it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think also that they messed up when they announced season 2 even before season 1 started. It kind of took away from Picard dying, because we knew there was a season 2. So we kind of knew he was going to go into the Gollum body. Like we spotted that straight away, really, didn't you? When it was another kind of obvious thing straight away. But also because we knew there was going to be a season 2. They shouldn't have. They should.
I don't know if you remember, but we were talking about the Gollum body a week before it was actually identified. We were saying, I bet that there's some sort of thing on the planet that is this, and then it turns out to be true.
Yeah.
So
but if they had
that was without seeing any previews or anything like that, because I certainly have never watched anything like that.
But can you imagine Picard dying, right, is such a big moment, right? It's like that awful, what they did to Kirk dying. The way they killed him off, right? I know both of us, that is very, like, they did him so wrong, the way they killed him off. Like, if they had done the episode where Picard, he died, right? And that was the end of the season. We knew there was a season 2. We could have spent the whole summer or whatever speculating. They didn't have to show us the Gollum body. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
And we could have gone, well, there's a season 2. Is he going to be a robot, a syndicate? Are they going to operate on him? Do they have special, like that magic fucking Harry Potter one they have for fixing things on the ships? Are they going to use that? They could have done something simple as that and given the show a cliffhanger for next season.
Yes, which would have made it more dramatic.
It would have been brilliant. It would have been 9 out of 10. I would have gone, oh my God. Like, you would have spent the whole summer then coming up with, two of us would have talked for the next 5-6 months, the whole year about it.
Oh,
you probably would have wrote a book, knowing you.
I think to be honest, I would have probably had a stroke by the end of the year, coming up with all of these theories.
That would have given. Like, did you get emotional when Picard died? I didn't.
I did a bit.
I didn't, because I knew. Well, one, you knew because there was still 15 minutes left in the clock for the time of the show, right? No, I know I'm kind of cheating by looking at time, but geez, we're watching on TV. The time is on the screen sometimes for us. I knew how long was left to go on the show, and I was just going, it just had no impact. I was going, well, obviously he's going to come back the next 15 minutes, and so there's no point. I just didn't feel like it had the gravitas that it should have been given.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I watched it, and I was sort of like, I know he's going to die.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, have I ever told you about the Han Solo's death?
No.
Right, well, when it was The Force Awakens, sorry for anybody who just didn't know that Han Solo died, but it's spoiler. Spoiler alert, 5 seconds ago. Just do a time warp backwards and then go forwards. When Han Solo died, I sort of like had, without listening to anything on the internet, I just thought, I have a feeling that Han Solo's going to die in this movie. You know, when you sort of like feel it in your water, as it were. Yeah. But I know he's going to die. And I actually asked somebody who had been to see it, and I was very pointed, and I said, I don't care if you're spoiling it. Just answer this one question. Does he die?
Yeah.
And that person said, yes, they did. Okay. So I was I wasn't perfectly all right with that. I was really peed off. Because to me, Han Solo was the main character in Star Wars. You know, he was the one that I gravitated to, which probably most guys our age probably did.
Yeah.
Because he was a cool one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So I went into the cinema, and it was actually the last time I ever went to the cinema with my dad, because he took me to see Star Wars the first time, and we took my son to see The Force Awakens, which was the first time he'd ever seen Star Wars at the cinema.
Yeah.
So we're sat there, and then it gets to that point between, you know, Ben and Han, and he kills him and he falls off the cliff. And I'm sort of like there, and I am still, you know, that 5-year-old, that 6-year-old child in me is going, no, Han's dead, you know, and I was like, I'm all right. Okay. But I'm holding it on, but that I can feel that little child in there in me. And then my son turns around and puts his hand on me, and he says, "Are you all right, Dad?" And that was it. I was gone. My tears were reaming down my face. But I am a bit of a softie when it comes to
I understand that.
certain things like that.
You have emotions connected to it. You have memories connected to that character and that movie and stuff. So I understand that. Yeah, and Picard should be the same.
Yeah, and I did with Picard as well. But I mean, I didn't burst into tears or anything. But I still felt it pull. You know, I felt his death, as it were.
Yeah.
And I thought that, to be honest, the way that they filmed it was good.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of, you know, how they had him slip away. But I think that they should have had him slip away, then that should have been the cut.
Yes, that's what I'm saying to you. And then that should be the season finale.
Yes.
And then we have we can speculate for the whole summer or the whole couple of years until the first episode of season 2, and then that season then is explaining what's going to happen and where the season's heading to the future.
Like if in terms of Discovery, when they went in, you know, went 1,000 years into the future, if they'd have then showed them coming out of the other side and they were all right, you'd have gone, oh, that's all right then.
Yeah.
But instead, they cut it off where they went there, and then it was just, you know, Pike and Spock.
Yeah.
And the Enterprise crew, and that was the right way to do it.
Yeah, I suppose we're just being as Star Trek fans, we're just nitpicking. It's great to be able to find fault, I suppose, in a way, really, about it, to have Picard back on the screen.
It was brilliant to see Sir Patrick Stewart in that role.
Yes,
he's absolutely fantastic. He completely owns that role.
Yeah,
no matter how you think. Same with Jonathan Frakes as
Riker and Seven. Yeah, That episode where he went to Riker and Troy, that's probably my favourite episode.
That was the best episode of the entire season. And I do think that was the best that Deanna Troy has ever been written.
Yes, because she had some great dialogue. It was really emotional stuff there. Like, I actually teared up at that moment when Riker and Deanna turned around to walk into the cabin, and they did the usual old TNG style camera fades back and pulls up to the sky with the music. And I just went, or when Riker was sitting at the lake talking to Picard, those moments were just fantastic for me. But then again, I don't want any more of that in season 2. I want them now to, right, we've done the first season, we kind of had some fantastic ideas with a few kind of plot holes and a few little throwaway, like with an okay story. The story was okay, hidden overall.
Oh yeah.
It was a little bit a lot of plot holes and a lot of handy writing just to move story on, but it was enjoyable. I think now season 2, they need to get more tight, pick a really good overarching story and run with that now, and just kind of step away a little bit from the whole TNG aspect. Would that make sense?
Absolutely, because if you want to watch a modern version of The Next Generation, watch the Orville.
Orville. Oh yeah, that's fantastic.
It is.
Yeah.
I wish you'd do season 3.
Yeah, and I actually listen to a podcast now that are doing what we're doing on the Orville. They break down every single episode, one episode at a time. It's really good. I'm going to give you a link to it. You'd enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd like to listen to that.
Yeah, it's actually very good. It's the Geek Generation podcast. It's a very good podcast. It's kind of like what we do, guys, just chatting and talking, you know. But yeah, overall, do you want to go to theories confirmed, or we've kind of done all that last few weeks, have we?
We might as well say all of the theories that we have confirmed, because we've done really well.
We could be here for the night.
Okay. Wonku being stripped for tech and labour and slaves. Yeah, we know that. There was a Romulan Federation activity going on at the time of the collapse of the Romulan star, particularly around the fall of the moon. Soji's mother was a way of controlling it as a AI.
Yeah.
Dr. Jurati was a spy of sorts, whether or not she was under duress or doing it willingly, irrespective. She was doing stuff sort of like under or sort of direction in one way or another.
Well, she was a good GPS tracking system.
Yes. And also she murdered Maddox and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, have they forgot about that as well?
Yeah, they have it. Oh, she's been forgiven for that because she's rescued Picard.
And also, what's the story of Raffi? She was unconsolable in her room, alcoholic, drug-taking mother who could see her. And now she's happy with Seven and flying off into the future. No more about her son and a new baby.
Yeah, well, it's just
fucking Raffi.
Well, it's more. We know you really love her.
Oh, I
think when you go back to work, you'll open up your locker and there will be pictures of Raffi on the door.
Yeah, well, I'll have sharp knives throwing at her.
No, I think that'll be sort of like your secret little.
Because I actually took me a while to warm to Rios, and I really actually like him now as a character.
I do.
I still think he's something else, like a hologram or something, and they just didn't run through with it yet for the season. I think there's still something else there for next season on him.
Oh, I do, definitely.
Sorry.
So, next theory was that Jurati helped Maddox to create the synths, which was confirmed. That Maddox created the synths in the face of the ban, which was confirmed. We saw Riker and Troy again, which was confirmed on the episode of Penthe. Commodore O was Tal Shiar, Jacques Vache.
Yeah.
And Tal Shiar. All hell did break loose on the Borg cube. 7 of 9 did come to sort of Hugh's rescue. She thought she was going to Hugh's rescue, but it was actually Elnor because Hugh had been killed by then. 7 did become the Borg Queen, and she did expel the Jacques Vache as well.
Yeah.
Commodore O was a Romulan spy.
Yeah.
Picard when Picard arrived at the homeworld, he's attacked by the Zat Vash and Seven uses the Borg cube to save the crew. That happened.
Mm-hmm.
Sung, or maybe his child, was on the planet. Well, it was his son. Sung's son.
Yeah.
That's a tongue twister. And Maddox worked with him. That was confirmed as well.
Yeah.
The visions from the admonition were interpreted differently, slightly, by Sutra, which was our theory as well. So, and it was about, they were intended for synthetic life.
Yeah.
And Agnes did solve the mind transference and put Picard in the golem.
Yeah.
So we predicted all of those up until episode 9. So I think that we did really well.
Yeah. Things
that we didn't get wrong, or didn't get right, rather. We didn't get it confirmed that Commodore O was working as Tal Shiar with the knowledge of Admiral Clancy. I think that might still come true. The Borg originated with Romulans. That wasn't confirmed.
Yeah, I'd like them to go into more of that, but I don't think they will next season.
I think that the Borg element's gone now. I think that's dead.
Yeah, I think the Romulans could be gone as well.
Oh, I don't. I think the Romulans are going to come back because I think it's going to be
maybe
the next season about Picard and advocating for the synths against the Romulans.
Yeah.
We thought about the Romulans invented the synths thousands of years, which is basically what happened, but no, they just found the admonition. The nest was controlled by Control from Section 31's threat assessment.
And it did look like a Control was coming through.
It did, but it had nothing at all to do with the the nest, as it were.
No, it did, no.
The loss of discovery part of Control had infested the nest. That wasn't right. Maybe the two sisters represented light and dark. Kind of. I'm not sure whether or not we got that right or not, because I kind of think we did, but she turned back to the light.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of like saying that's halfish there. We thought about maybe some sort of time travel. That didn't come true.
Oh.
We did speculate about the nest maybe having nothing to do with Maddox, but that wasn't true.
Yeah.
I talked about the Pike and Tyler encountering a probe from 500 years in the future, which is, as you said, looked like the tentacles of the AI.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
It did. It had very much so. I kind of wish it came true.
Yeah.
A bit more, or when they closed the portal, that they kind of snapped them off, and we know they can kind of live independently as well when they're damaged. Like maybe that was a way of them coming into this universe.
Yeah, that's quite possible. We speculated about there being more to the mind meld, that about the admonition, which might play out in Discovery season 3.
Yeah,
that could be possible yet.
Yes.
Could be a consciousness put into an android of a Sung. Or Sung being put into. Sorry, it was Law, wasn't it, that we thought could be put into Sung style android, and he was Sung. What if? So could Rios be the beautiful flower?
Yeah.
Because that was someone who we never actually got to identify.
No.
And a picture that showed Jana had Rios in it as well. But he was talking about Jana and a beautiful flower. So that, And also, I didn't think that the younger picture of Rios really looked like him.
No, it didn't, did it?
No, it didn't.
Yeah, we said that last week. It didn't look like him.
Yeah, so he might still be beautiful flower, but why wasn't he recognised by the others? I don't know.
Yeah.
This is one we got true. I've put it in and we got wrong.
We got
Picard will get resurrected as an android. Yes, we got that one right.
Confirmed, yeah.
That's confirmed. And we talked about, could Dr. Altan Ingo Sung be actually an alter ego? Because Altan Ingo sounds like alter ego.
Yeah.
And he was the biological version of Law. So, I think we did all right, really. I think, we predicted a good proportion of the show based on the evidence that was presented to us on the show. We refined the theories as time went on. Some we abandoned.
Yeah.
Because, some of those were really, really early theories.
Yeah. I kind of wish some of them came true. It would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been. Definitely would have been. But
such as such.
So, in terms of new theories for the next season, I think it's going to be all about Picard supporting the synths to the Federation. I think he might have been re-enlisted as well. And I think that that's what he's basically going to be doing. I think that we will see Narissa come back. I think we'll see Nareka come back. I think we'll see O come back. Now, I've heard that O's not her proper name either. I don't know what her supposed name is. But it wasn't mentioned on the show because I paid particular attention to that.
Yeah.
And I think that the Romulans are not finished with the synths.
Yeah.
Unless you decide to just leave that where it is and then just start something completely new.
I think they're going to start something completely new. I think they're going to have to, because they've kind of closed off a lot. If they continue the story, do you not think it'll be a little bit boring, Hayden? I think start off something new now. Picard and his crew are heading off. It's time to find a new threat to the universe or something else. It would be nice. I think it would be nice now if they took season 2, kind of like what they did at the end of season 2 of Discovery, where they've put it into the future, and we've seen the trailer, so we've an idea what's going to happen, but really we don't. Like that, it'd be nice now if they'd. I wish they'd left the cliffhanger hidden on this season.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to come up with where they're going to go, because they could really go in any direction. Like, does what you call it, like, if they're writing Crusher, what's his name, back into it,
Wesley.
And Wesley was he was basically like a traveller, whatever he was.
But no, he wasn't, because he established it back at the end of Nemesis.
Yeah.
Wesley was back in Starfleet, and there was actually a scene that was shown that was him talking about how he re-enlisted, so he'd actually left the Traveller at that point.
Yeah. I think they're going to go season 2. I think they're going to kind of try to treat season 2 now as a reboot, we'll say.
Yeah.
They've done the TNG, they've done the nostalgia factor, they've done all that, and just here we go now. It's a new adventures, a fit-ish Picard, new crew, new ship, new universe. This Federation is in a bit of turmoil. The Romulans are in a bit of turmoil, and just move on with that then,
Yeah.
And kill off Raffi in the first episode.
That's just your dream.
So, yeah, overall, I'm delighted. It's been a fantastic 10 weeks. I think I've enjoyed the podcast more than the show, I think.
Yeah, I think actually doing this, it's made it a lot more special as a show to us.
Yes.
As well. But it's been a really good show. It's certainly one of the better sci-fi shows that's been on for a while.
Yes, it's got potential.
I just think what it felt to me, it felt like you were on a roller coaster and you were climbing and you were climbing and climbing, but when you got to the peak, instead of having a real like whoosh down,
didn't
you had a very very slow,
inconsistent.
Yeah. It didn't quite in the last few episodes excite, and I think that was due to a couple of quite gaping plot holes, and maybe it was also to do with the direction of some of those shows as well, because look at the Jonathan Frakes episodes; they were all really good.
They were very good. I think he needs to direct a few more.
Yeah, well, he knows his subject.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But overall, a solid 8 out of 10 for me, 8.5 out of 10 for you, from what you're saying. We have to wait.
8.5. It's somewhere between 8 and 8.5.
You're going with the IGN score. You're not going to go with solid 8 or 9. I'm going to go solid 8 out of 10.
8.475.
Yeah, these IGN scores don't hold up a lot. Really happy with the new characters. They need to really do a lot more with Eleanor for season 2. Give him a beard and make him a bit more badass, maybe, or something.
Yeah, and you heard that, ladies and gentlemen, that he's happy with all the new characters. That includes Raffi.
No, I was going to say except for Raffi. She's
I know.
just...
Yeah, you didn't like her. Personally, I didn't mind. I didn't really mind Jurati.
Maybe
But
it's not.
I don't mind her.
It's not even the character. Maybe it's more the actor and the way she played her. She had more ups and downs and mood flips and tantrums, and I know she's been directed and that's the way she's probably been told to play it. But I don't think she was proper casting for it.
And I think it was more what she was given and how she was told to do it.
Yeah.
But we'll see in season 2, won't we?
Yes, hopefully, touch wood. We'll be all here to see it.
Yeah, we'll see her die in episode 1.
Yeah. Oh God.
You hope.
And that episode will be just 2 hours talking about her death.
You'll be all, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so.
Yeah. So, anything else to add, Hayden? Or
no, I think that's it.
Okay.
So all I can say is thank you for joining me on this journey, Alan.
I was just going to say the same to you, Hayden. It's been brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and it's actually helped me, I hope, my podcasting since January. I think it helped me kind of get more comfortable in it. And thanks to all the people that have listened to the 10 episodes and some of the great feedback we've been getting. And we can't.
A lot of people have really, been very nice about the podcast. Yes. We're really glad that you've enjoyed it.
I don't think we've had any negativity. Have we, Hayden? Touch wood?
I don't think so.
It's been all some great banter back and forward, and it's been fantastic. It's made the show even more special, the Picard show.
Yeah, indeed.
So with that, can't wait for season 2. Looking forward to what we're doing next.
Yeah.
In this kind of weekly show.
Yeah, we're going to do Flash Gordon next week, was it? I
think we'll do Flash Gordon next week, yeah.
Yeah.
And we might do, I know you just finished watching Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yes.
I would like to do an episode on that as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of Easter eggs and stuff in that, Superman and things that I love.
Oh, yes.
I'd love to do a breakdown of that.
Yes.
So there's a good material there for us in the future, thankfully.
There certainly is.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Alan. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And all I can say is live long and prosper.
Sloan. Sure, to be good. It's all over now. It's time to go.
Because he's a wee bit starstruck.
That's funny. Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.